Oh, when I was a little boy, only one or two.
Well, good morning. We're talking about barbecue.
That was a little Robert Earl King to start the day.
A nice bass solo to begin the
Yeah,
show with.
yeah.
But that's Robert Earl King singing about Texas barbecue. And Carol and I did some Texas barbecue singing yesterday out at Pocahontas, Mississippi. We were both honored to be invited to the Friends and Family soft opening of Sacred Grounds, a new Texas-style barbecue joint in downtown Pocahontas, Mississippi. And we missed each other, but we were both there.
Yeah, in I would say the love child of our great chef, Derek Emerson. Oh,
Indeed.
my goodness. What an amazing experience and place. We heard about it a few months ago when it was still in his head, and I don't know what I was thinking, but...
That wasn't what you were thinking?
Well, it was. It was just so much more.
Yeah, it was.
It's
First
an
of all,
experience.
it's a huge facility with lots of...
But it doesn't feel, it's very human scale, but it has a lot of parts.
Many parts. So it's not open to the public yet, so do not let us deceive you. I have asked Derek a couple of times when he anticipates opening to the public, but he hasn't yet given me a date, so it is not yet open, but it will be opening very soon. I can assure you that. That's Derek and Jennifer Emerson's brand new Texas-style barbecue joint in Pocahontas, Mississippi. I don't know, Carol, about you, but I was blown away by a number of things. The brisket in Texas barbecue is the holy grail, and he's nailed it, as is beef ribs. I'm not even a big beef rib fan.
The beef ribs were luscious. I mean, they were soft and they were luscious. But, the name of the place is Sacred Ground, and it's, right across from a sacred Indian mound.
Choctaw Mound, I
believe. Choctaw
on Highway
Mound,
49.
indeed. And I don't know if you went back and looked at the smokers.
Of course I did. What do you mean? You don't know if I looked at the smokers?
Well, you're kind of in and out.
Oh, no. We just got there early. And we spent quite a long time there. We went into every room, checked out everything about the place, visited with all kind of folks. We saw Doug Boone, who's a great cooking and coping poster. And
a great meat smoker and cooker on his green egg.
And Michael Williams was there helping out. We saw lots of our people there.
Lee Bailey
was in the house. Jill Connor Brown was in the house. But anyway, it was delightful, and we don't mean to tease folks, but it isn't quite open for prime time yet, but it will be soon, and I promise you will not be disappointed.
The smokers were actually like tubes, like propane gas tubes, big bullet-shaped tubes that he had welded.
He built them.
Yeah,
Derek built them himself.
At his home. He mentioned the friend that had helped him build them. I forgot, but it's quite a place. And what makes it different for us, and I'll say this for our listeners who are not Mississippians, is we don't get a lot of Texas-style barbecue around here. And, of course, Texas is more beef-based.
That's right.
Barbecue.
Sausage.
Instead of the pork ribs and pulled pork.
German. It's German
heavily German
yes.
influenced. But everything he did, the sauces were just perfection.
There were 3 sauces, an Alabama white, a Carolina yellow, and a traditional, ketchup-y red vinegary sauce. They were all really, really good. And the sides, I'm just going to say, the sides blew me away. The corn salad
was the best.
I could go on. The smoked cheese, the greens, Kara she really focused on the green beans. They had those flat French green beans with tomatoes in it. Very Armenian, very Mediterranean.
A lot of that was gone by the time we got there.
We asked Derek about that anyway. But the food is good. It's going to be great. It's a beautiful place. There's lots of games for kids, a lot of activity. So
Real family place, lots
coming
of
soon.
television. One more comment I'd like to make that I found interesting. Michael Williams, who has worked in the food industry for decades and is just a wonderful human being, was telling me that in all his travels and working with the great chefs of America, he said he has 5 chefs who he thinks have the best taste memory and no flavor profiles, and that included, like Wiley Dufresne, one of the just great chefs in New York. He said Derek Emerson is one of those. He said his ability to taste and to create flavor, and how his mind works. He said, in food service they have wheels that put all these flavors together. He said, but Derek Emerson does it in his head.
he's got a head full of wheels.
He does. He does.
All right, another thing that's on my mind is this book.
Ooh, I know.
I'm so
Bayou.
excited about Bayou, or Bayou, however one likes to pronounce it. But it's Melissa M. Martin's new book. Melissa is a James Beard award-winning author for the Mosquito Supper Club, which is also a restaurant in uptown New Orleans. I haven't been to the Mosquito Supper Club, but anybody who has. Have you made it yet?
I have not.
Okay, well, we got to do that. But Melissa's new book is on fire. It's incredible. It's about Cajun life, about Cajun. She takes it through the seasons of the year and talks about the foods as it relates to Mardi Gras, to the holidays, to the New Year, so forth and so on. But anyway, this book is great. It's at Lemuria right now. There are signed copies. Don't be crazy. Go get yourself one.
Yeah, go get yourself one. But she's I believe, a Plaquemine Parish native, and she really speaks about the disappearing marshes and coastlines and the food of that area. And she's done a very important job in these two books of highlighting, the lost.
Right. Well, that and the
marshes.
Cajun life.
Yes.
The Cajun Mardi Gras, for example, is all throughout this book. But anyway, get yourself a copy of Bayou or Bayou, however you pronounce it. You'll be glad that you did. Also, yesterday at the opening, I ran into Louis LaRose, who owns Lou's Full Serve. I'm sorry, Louis. And he's consolidated two restaurants into one out on the Parkway. And he's really pleased with what's happened. He had a sandwich place out on the Parkway, and then he had his full-serve restaurant in Belhaven, and now he's combined those two out on the Parkway at Renaissance, across from Renaissance in that area of the community. And very excited. We're going to get Louis on soon. I got his contacts yesterday. We'd love to hear his story. I know he went to culinary school. His dad is
Henry LaRose.
Henry, the local realtor in Bon Vivant. And he went to culinary school, came back, worked at a number of places, Bravo, for example. But anyway, ran into Louis, and looking forward to hearing from him.
There were a lot of chefs in the house
Imagine
yesterday
that.
at Sacred Ground. I saw David Raines.
Yep.
People were making the scene.
Yeah, it was great. It was nice, and we look forward to a full opening there. We got a caller. I guess we'll go ahead and take that from Hattiesburg. Chris is on the phone, and the topic is Indian pudding. I like that. What's up, Chris?
Hey there. I actually tried to make this. I got it a number of years ago when I was up in Rhode Island. I put the flour and scalded milk together. I got it thick, added the maple syrup, nutmeg, all the other things. But when I put it in the oven, it didn't set. It turned it out lumpy and watery. What could I have done to make it better?
Okay.
So it would set correctly?
So this is Indian pudding. Is that what you're calling it?
That's it. That's what
They call it America's earliest dessert.
Right.
I would love to hear from some of our listeners. What I'm thinking is putting it in a water bath, putting the pan in another pan, a water bath, so it'll gently cook the milk. But
did it separate? Is that what happened, Chris?
Yeah, there was clumps of cornmeal, and they were just floating around in water. I initially put the milk and was happy that I was able to scald it without burning it in a double boiler, and added the cornmeal until the whole thing got thick.
Okay.
Then I added the other ingredients. One good thing about this recipe, it tastes like fall has just exploded in your mouth.
I bet.
Wow.
But when I put it in the oven at about 400 degrees for 2 hours, the thing did not set right. Someone suggested I get an immersion blender and really make sure that it's
blended.
mixed well. Yeah, and that may have been the issue, but I was wondering if you had any other ideas.
Well, while we were talking, I just put this on Google, and there's something kind of interesting. It says it's amazing when you serve it hot from the oven, but that's hard to pull off. And it said one solution is to enlist your slow cooker for the baking part of the recipe, and you can cook it for 2 to 3 hours on high, or for low is 6. And it says because you don't want it to be loose, another thing you can do is use individual containers instead of a big pan.
Like ramekins?
Doing small containers or those small little cast iron skillets. So, I don't know if that's a help to you, but looks like some other people are having that kind of interesting problem too. I'm just looking. This looks wonderful. It makes me want to run
out and make some Indian pudding. Well, Chris, we thank you so much for listening and for calling, and we'll continue to dig, and we'll ask other listeners who might have experience with this. I don't have any.
And we might even make some.
We may make some between this show and the next show. That's how we roll here on Deep South Dining.
Well, there's not a lot of people in the Deep South that know about this New England dish.
But they heard it here on Deep South Dining, and
they will now.
Yes, they will now. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for listening. Well, Carol, on a somber note, we lost a great friend to the show and a great friend to cooking and coping this past week, and we wanted to say a word about Roger Cook, who neither of us knew personally, but we felt like we knew Roger quite well.
And that has just been the beauty of cooking and coping. It was, opening the Facebook page and seeing that this wonderful cook and human being who we've gotten to know over the past 4 years, you just feel like I feel like I've sat at the table with him. Right. I've read and enjoyed so many of his recipes, but Roger was from Savannah, Tennessee, and just, from reading his cooking and post every week, he was, a great outdoorsman, a big game hunter, but loved nothing more to be in the outdoors. And he was actually posting last week. Last week, and it was quite a shock to Roger and to his friends and family. He was diagnosed with leukemia on Monday and died 4 days later. So the whole cooking and coping community is reeling this morning. Right. But it really touched me how many people knew him and really knew him and felt he was a friend, although they never sat down in person. Right. And I was looking at this book that our friend Donna Barksdale gave me. It's a chef's book of culinary quotations, and I've always loved this one by Julia Child that said, people who love to eat are always the best people.
Indeed. We're going to take a moment of silence before we go into break to celebrate Roger's life and to send our very best to his family. Welcome back to Deep South Dining. Malcolm White, Carol Palmer. We are delighted to have you join us this morning. And Carol, it's sort of fallish outside finally, though it is going to be 84 degrees today.
Indeed, it is, Mal. But
Well-
it feels like fall and makes me want to go make some Indian pudding.
Yeah, well, we want to talk about fall flavors. And
Oh,
so,
we do.
I'm sorry?
I
We-
forgot the pimento and cheese.
Uh-oh. Where's the pimento cheese?
Out.
We have a very special guest in the studio with us this morning. Mary Sanders Ferriss Cavicchi is here. Mary Sanders also hosted a soft opening, Carol, which we attended. Lord knows
No,
we've
we
been
were
busy.
so busy. We were so busy last
But
week.
the walk-in is a new establishment in the south end of the Hal and Mal's building, is the way I would describe it. And Mary Sanders, welcome to you, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Home run.
Thank you. Thank you. We enjoyed putting it together very quickly.
And how quickly was that?
We decided mid-September to do it, and it is opening today, officially.
All right, and tell us what it is.
So we have taken what was the old brew pub and courtyard at the end of the building and converted it into its own, really cocktail bar and lounge is the best way to describe it, but it has a good amount of small plates and food. We have a great amount of non-alcoholic beverages and a really good cocktail menu that was put together by Georgie, one of our bartenders. And it's really just supposed to be kind of a great place that people can go. It opens from 4, closes at midnight. Just kind of a lounge place that people can hang out. We've got games. We have a variety of things. I always noticed that people would leave the restaurant, and if they weren't from Jackson, they would kind of wonder what this other place was. And so I would watch people think that it was a separate venue.
And wander down the hall.
Yeah, or even on like the storefront, like the actual street frontage. If we had something going on in the brew pub, they would kind of wander up there and see if they could go to. But they thought it was like a whole separate like restaurant. And
So you just made it that way.
I did. So the goal was really to kind of activate the street. So when we've got music in the Red Room, that's a storefront, the restaurant's a storefront, and now the walk-in is also a storefront. Plus you've got Martin, so then that's kind of 4 things going on all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
You know how I
Mary
love it.
Sanders, we were so excited to have you on. We have had your husband, Damien Cavicchi, who's the chef, on before. And it's kind of interesting to have the designer on. But one of the reasons we've wanted you on for a long time is because you are a fabulous restaurant designer, and that's part of the whole package of eating or dining and going out. And I think it's just, you've made some atmospheres that just knock people's socks
Absolutely.
off, and
So-
it did the other night.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's got a groovy feel, and it has a separate menu from Hal and Mal's, which is, I guess you'd call it sort of Asian fusion, for lack of a better word. There were poo-poo platters, there were egg rolls, there were pimento cheese, which we think, Java, have you seen the pimento cheese running around out there somewhere?
I left it
We've
in the
lost
front.
it.
Yes, we especially wanted the pimento cheese. I mean, this is for us, very, very selfish. But it's
I understand.
gochujang pimento cheese, that's a Korean sauce product.
It is.
And
We're going to have to
wow,
phone a friend if you want me to talk much about the food, but
phoning a friend is great. But we had you bring it, so
yes.
Malcolm and I can
We
enjoy
both
it.
enjoyed this when we were together last, was it Wednesday, I believe, that you and I gathered up out there at the walk-in. And here it comes, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who are viewing via YouTube, you can see the fabulous Java
Yeah,
Chapman.
Java,
you
can
take
you show it to the camera?
You take the first piece.
yes.
Oh, look, it's beautiful.
There's so many cameras on.
Yeah, I don't. So now you can add waiter to your resume.
Oh, I was a waiter long before I got in the radio.
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
was
there
a
you
could
have
Shoney's-
probably
it.
use
I
you.
was Shoney's, Metro Center Shoney's.
The big boy.
Shows how long ago that was.
How about that? Well, take one if you're so inclined. But here we have a beautiful platter of pimento cheese. And Carol, go ahead. And those croutons look amazing.
Well, before we we tasted. I've got to take a picture of it to post on Cooking and Coping. So
This is live radio, ladies and gentlemen, and we're both visual and audio, right? Marissa, why don't you take a second and tell our listeners who have never joined us on YouTube how they can both listen to us and join us visually.
Absolutely. We are live streaming currently on YouTube. So if you open up youtube.com, the YouTube app, and you search Mississippi Public Broadcasting, it'll show up right now, live.
Wow.
You can watch
Malcolm E.
and Carol enjoy this lovely, lovely food.
Wow, this is terrific. So a lot of what I remember, the menu items are small plates, right?
Yes,
Mary Sanders?
yes.
So,
Plus a burger. You got to have a burger.
yeah, there's a burger, of course. But this, what Carol was sort of setting up, and of course, we got sidetracked by the food itself, was
Of course.
that you have a separate, you're one of the owners of Hal and Mal's and the Walk-In and Campbell's Bakery, but you also have this other business, this long-standing business of Ferriss and Company, where you do your design work, right?
Correct.
Tell us about it.
So, Ferriss and Company started. I had moved back to Jackson and was working in-house with the Babalu team when they were kind of expanding on in the southeast, and I kept getting calls about doing some different restaurant work, and I ended up deciding to kind of go out on my own with them still as a client for a little while. And originally started doing, I think Fine and Dandy was the first restaurant. I was doing Foreman Watkins' office as well. And other than kind of Babalu, Fine and Dandy was my first restaurant in Jackson to really kind of, I guess, set the stage for restaurant design and kind of that part of my career. And then honestly, like if I'm telling the truth, I never thought I could do restaurant design in Jackson, so never thought I would live in Jackson. And ended up, that was kind of a well-received product. And then we just kind of kept going and we kept doing, we've always done other things, but restaurants are kind of my passion. We did Aplos, we've done Sal and Mookie's, Tuk Tuk Boom.
you've done two of my family's restaurants.
Yes,
Yeah, Tuk
yes,
Tuk Boom.
yes.
And then Current Crop in New Orleans, which, is the wonderful coffee roasting, green bean shop we talked about a few weeks ago, which, of course, I'm prejudiced, but I think it's one of the best things I've seen.
I do too. Well, and retail is similar. I mean, you deal with restaurants, you really think about the guest experience and also the functionality, and so the two kind of have to really work well together. And retail is very similar. So we really kind of enjoy doing both. And really, from my perspective, I like working with anything that has a story or a brand. I was a theater major before I was a designer, and so I think sometimes I like the setting the stage and telling the story. But that's really kind of when I started here, that's just what I kept asking. Like, what's the brand? What's the brand? Tell me what your story is. And we try to make that kind of reflect. And that I've missed that before and really saw kind of how that affected the restaurant. And that was really like a good learning experience to make me kind of really hone in on not only like what do they want the brand to be, but also really understanding the operator and kind of their personality and how, they're going to run the business. So.
And excuse me, this is, we're approaching the 2-year anniversary of yours and Damien's owning of Hal and Mal's. November is our anniversary. So talk a little bit about the difference between designing a restaurant and owning and operating a restaurant. It seems like you sort of spent most of your time designing and now suddenly you're an owner. What's that experience like for you?
It's been very interesting. I used to have people all the time, they would ask me, do you want to get in the restaurant world? And I would always say, no, I know how to design a restaurant, but I don't know how to operate one. And luckily I married someone that knows how to operate one. But as far as owning it, I mean, I kind of approach it similarly to how I approach any of my business, which is always like, whether it's the client or the guest, like they're kind of always right, and you always have to work with them. And that's a lot of, I think, hospitality. I think hospitality is making people feel comfortable and meeting them at the table in any way possible. And that's true from a design perspective or an owner perspective. And that's kind of how I approach everything. But I mean, I also do bus tables and things like that, which are things you
course.
don't do as a as a
Yeah.
designer.
It's just, people used
I
to
did
tell
as a
me
designer with Babalu. We used to bus tables during openings all the time.
at the Everyday Gourmet in it must be so wonderful to own your own business. I'm changing toilet paper rolls early in the morning. You're sweeping. You're doing. You do everything. But I want to talk about your journey, because I have known you gently since you were a small child.
Yeah.
Your father actually was the CPA for my early business when the Everyday Gourmet back in the 80s, and I was very aware of your growing up and going to Mississippi State. And I believe when I was at Viking Range, you were in the interior design program at Mississippi State. I think your class came and visited us. So what was your journey from interior design to Ferriss and Company, which is a super successable business?
Okay, it's a very convoluted journey, but I'll tell you.
We love convolution right now.
We live for convolution.
So I started at Millsaps in theater, enjoyed set design, decided to transition into interior design, and so instead of going to grad school, made the decision to move to Mississippi State my junior year. From there, I met Stephen Perkins. Actually, Fred Carl introduced me to Stephen Perkins, who was one of the partners for Forrest Perkins, who designed the Alluvion. And so we met at the Edison Walthall, actually, while it was still a hotel downtown in Jackson. He was in town, and he interviewed me. Told me I would much rather be in Dallas than in D.C. I told him he was wrong. And ended up going to D.C. and working for him for about 5 years doing hotel design. And I really, I enjoyed hotel design, but I really liked the food and beverage aspect of it. And then the length of hotels, it's honest, they're like a 3-year process, and my attention span is not that. And so I ended up kind of burning out a little bit and moving back home. My dad had been sick, and he's fine now, but it made sense for me to be home for a little while or close to home. And I decided I was giving up interior design. I had made the wrong decision in life, and I was going to go back and sell children's toys, because I used to work at the old-time commissary in high school and college. And so I was going to go into sales. So I went and did wholesale for a company out of Dallas for 2 years, but kept kind of designing on the side. And that was one of the, when I did Babalu, and met Bill Latham, which was kind of I've known Bill Latham my whole life, but really kind of from a professional perspective, met Bill and worked with him, but still wasn't ready to go fully back into design. Kind of went back and forth from DC to New Orleans a couple of years. In that process, I worked for a furniture manufacturer doing sales, but also making custom furniture overseas and locally. Actually had a small moment where I owned my own fabrication company in New Orleans, where I made a lot of metalwork.
You are not old enough to have done all these things.
I did. I told you it was a very bizarre journey. And ended up kind of at that point, I had the metal company. I was doing design. I was doing some brand consulting for different designers and companies, and ended up deciding, Bill asked me to move back to Jackson. And that's kind of where the Jackson journey picked up. But I thought I was crazy during all of that. And I tell people, young people all the time, you're going to think that you're doing all of these weird things that make absolutely no sense. But I can sit down with a metal fabricator now and talk through custom millwork, and I can know how to make things that are completely customized. Stuff like that doesn't scare me. And a lot of that came from having worked in fabrication. And when we did the cultivation sign for the ceiling, I went to Scott and I was like, okay, here's this is what I want to do. I'm pretty sure we can make this work. It's just a sign, things like that don't make me nervous. And so I think sometimes that's what helps my projects, is I don't live within the box of what we can buy on the shelf. I can kind of figure out how to make different things.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break. Come right back with Mary Sanders Ferriss Cavicchi, the longest name in show business.
True.
And we will continue to talk about her career in Campbell's Bakery, Hal and Mal's, Ferriss and Company, her design work.
Pimento cheese.
Pimento cheese. We'll be ingesting some pimento cheese on the break. But we'll be right back. If you'd like to join the conversations, it is very simple and it's toll free. It is 1-877-672-7464. If you have a question for Mary Sanders, please get on the phone and join the conversation. We'll be right back with more Deep South Dining. We're back with more Deep South Dining right here on MPB Think Radio. Carol Palmer, Malcolm White with Mary Sanders Ferriss Cavicchi, our great friend, designer, restaurateur. Now, you guys y'all bought Campbell's Bakery before you bought Hal and Mal's, as I recall, since I was around the table at the time.
Campbell's in August, Hal and Mal's in November.
Did anyone
Like
say
crazy
maybe
people.
you were crazy?
We're crazy people.
Well, we didn't Campbell's came out of nowhere. We'd been kind of talking with y'all for about a year,
Yeah.
and Campbell's was something Damien said, if it ever comes up for sale, I want to buy it. And I was like, it's never going to come up for sale. You're crazy. And then it did, and I had known Mitchell, and so we kind of talked about it, and we tried to delay it, and he was ready to go to Baton Rouge, and so
Yeah.
here we are.
Now, is there a Campbell's family that once owned and operated it? I don't know the history of Campbell's, except it goes back to Ron. I can't remember Ron's last name, who owned it for the many years.
There was a Campbell's family that started it in the 60s. He, I believe, was in the military and actually maybe was a baker at the Old Jitney 14. I think that's
okay.
right. If I'm wrong, don't kill me. And then ended up opening the bakery. And then it has, to your point, it has changed hands a number of times over the years. But yes, there was an original Campbell's family.
So, have you had anything to do with the design of the cakes?
Yes.
I thought so. In fact, I've experienced 2 cakes just this month that were they are absolutely beautiful.
Well, I will say the decorators do a great job. And as far as custom cakes go, they have to, take a picture. And as I always say, like, you can show me your Pinterest image, but we can't make it exact, depending upon what it is. But we've got some really great decorators. We had a great kind of bakery consultant who was with us in the beginning, Sarah Steen. She works for Derek. And she really kind of helped set the tone for a lot of our, especially like our cookies and things like that, some designs there. Our Halloween designs are still kind of hers. We've been using for 2 years because they're so cute. But yes, we definitely, like all the case cakes and things like that, Damien and I kind of combed the world and looked at different things and wanted to make sure that they kind of were in the vein of what we wanted Campbell's to be. And that was really kind of keeping that kind of classic American, as I always say, the brand, classic American bakery. We do have macarons because we support Spark and we love them as neighbors in La Brioche. But we have tried to keep everything pretty much kind of what you would find kind of in that kind of neighborhood bakery.
Yeah, I really encourage people to look at the website and look at the cakes. I think they're just lovely and classic but contemporary. I love the
That is
little
the goal.
icing towers and the colors.
Yes, and we've added one of the things that I really wanted to do was add like a whole like retail line within the bakery because we just had a lot of space that we weren't really using. I mean, people sometimes would sit, but it was not really being occupied. And so if you buy a case cake, we actually have stuff that you can go on, you can kind of grab and decorate it. So if you did last minute forget a birthday, you can make it look like you did not. And so,
So
Yes,
you have
I saw that they
candles
they
and-
we
taped
got candles
they
and cake
taped
toppers
the
and
candles
all
to
kinds of
the
things.
outside of the box last week for
yes,
me.
all kinds of things, plates, etc.
You guys graciously donated some cupcakes to the Canopy Schools Fall Festival on Saturday, which I participated in, and they were the hit. Those cupcakes were beautiful, and the kids and the parents were sort of pushing and shoving to get to them. But those were really cool.
Good.
I guess cupcakes are still sort of a hot thing. I know they were a year or two ago.
Yeah, they're not as like trendy as like the whole cupcake trend, but they definitely. I mean, they're an easy, quick bite, and you can make them really cute and fun, and people like them.
So, as a designer, how do cupcakes become a thing and then not trend a year or so later when we're talking about a humble cupcake? How does this happen?
So I think that it's like any kind of craze or what anybody kind of picks up on.
Like donuts were there.
Exactly. I think people take something that's very basic that we've had forever, and then they, stack things on top of it, make them crazy, do different flavors. When the cupcake craze was big, it was really people really expand. You used to have like chocolate, vanilla, strawberry cupcakes, and so people really kind of expanded the palette of cupcakes. You had all types of flavors, different decor models. You had like Gigi's cupcakes, who did like bigger cupcakes. You had Magnolia cupcake. I mean, there was just all types of versions of cupcakes. But then I think, like anything,
when it goes mainstream,
Yeah.
then it's kind of over, as they say, jumping the shark.
yes, yes.
Jumping the shark, yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the walk-in. That's your newest endeavor. Opens tonight, I believe.
Tonight,
right?
yes, and late night karaoke. We've got Rhett from Finian's, who had long-standing karaoke and really wanted to bring it to Hal and Mal's, and so we said, you can do it, but it has to be later, so other
Okay.
people can have fun.
So
early
karaoke
on.
at the walk-in.
Yes.
Along with the small plates and
Yes.
the signature.
adding it
I'll
in.
tell you what I really love about the walk-in is the non-alcoholic beverage menu. It's impressive. You don't. And another thing, I think it's trending. Am I right about this?
You are right about that.
This is the thing, and I'm glad because I'm one of those people
Mm-hmm.
who likes an alcohol-free beverage. So talk a little bit about your mocktail menu.
Yeah, so I pushed really hard for this for a variety of reasons. I think it is trending, but I also think just like from a health perspective, I think there are a lot of people, whether it's, whether it is an addiction issue or whether it's just a health problem, I think there are a lot of people you don't want to alienate, and we want people to feel comfortable. I really don't enjoy drinking, and so, but I do enjoy having a glass of wine or having something in my hand. And so to me, it was really if anything, I don't ever want to make people feel uncomfortable or like there's not something there for them. And it's the market has exploded. I mean, it is insane, the number of non-alcoholic wines that exist, non-alcoholic spirits, our mocktails have everything from just what I would call a pure mocktail with no substitution spirit in it to some that really do taste like an alcoholic drink, which we found I think is important to notice. If you are a person that struggles with alcohol, that may not be the cocktail you want because it may feel a little too close to home. But there are definitely ones that don't have it. So
I noticed that you had an alcohol-free tequila on the menu, which I didn't try.
How can that be?
I don't know. That's what I was going to say.
I thought it was crazy as well. It has the burn. It's very. I mean, and that's one of my things is I think it definitely tastes and seems like a real tequila, and especially when you mix it into the drink. I mean, if you just sip it, it's not exactly right. You lose some body and things like that when they remove the alcohol. But there's varying processes, which I do not know enough about to talk about, but of how they actually do make the spirits and then actually remove the alcohol itself. So
Gotcha.
there's lots of...
So in the design of the walk-in, you have several different areas. I mean, you have kind of a library, cozy area, a table sitting area, and courtyard. Kind of walk us through that design process.
Walk us through the
and
walk-in.
Walk
Yeah.
us through the walk-in. So the new kind of entry will be kind of the front courtyard entry. If you are in a wheelchair, we do have the ADA entrance through the dining room. But you kind of walk into the main courtyard, which has always been this jewel in the whole building. And people have always said what a great hidden place it was. So I was like, well, it doesn't need to be hidden anymore. So that is really kind of the entrance. So we've got sofas and tables out there. One of the things we do when we design a space that used to be something else that people connect to, we try to make it feel like we kind of try to reorient them a little bit. So even just entering from the courtyard is different than kind of entering from the dining room. And then also kind of as you walk in, you kind of walk into this dining area. Your bar is actually on the left where it's always been. We have an amazing mural that was done by Gavin Bird, which really kind of upped the ante on the design. I really had to move it, pick it up a little bit once he did the mural. And then because of the old brew pub, you have a floor change difference. And so the floor where the brewing equipment was is not the same height as the rest of the space. And so we had to we've always had a pipe running around it. So we actually built a wall and made these kind of nooks and cranny areas with the goal that people could kind of be in different spots and you have a different experience in each space that you're in.
And because it currently doesn't have its own restrooms, one walks back into Hal and Mal's down the hallway
Exactly.
to use the facility.
It's true.
So you can get both experiences while you may have only intended And I'm sure there are a lot of people who come to Hal and Mal's for a bowl of gumbo or a plate of red beans and rice, or to hear, Jesse Robinson play music, and they see people walking down the hallway, and they sort of wander down there, and I would imagine
extend the experience.
Yeah.
That's what people are going to do, is extend the experience.
That's really what we want. We want people to be able to have dinner and then go have a drink, or have a drink and go have dinner, or go to a show and have somewhere else to go. If they aren't wanting a whole meal, there's a spot that they can stop. We've got a few good dessert options. And I think that one of my goals was the whole building. I think, Malcolm, you asked me, like, what style is this?
Yeah, right.
I would say Mary Sanders style.
That's what I said, but apparently that's not really a thing people know about. But the building is eclectic. You have made the space eclectic in your whole space that you've created over the years. And so that was really one of my goals, was that the other space, while it may feel different, it still has that eclectic, kind of older, lived-in feel, so that you don't have just this complete, like, walking from space to space. It's not, like, jarring in different ways.
So you've gone from luxury hotels to honky-tonks and everywhere.
Upscale honky-tonks.
Upscale
Exactly.
honky-tonks. Bakeries everywhere in between. So what's next for you? What's new? What else
People
are you
ask me.
working on?
People ask me this
I know
all the
you
time.
have a whole team of people working on.
I do. I have a great group of people. We have a bunch of good clients that are thankfully growing and doing new spaces. So Chuck Chuck's doing a new space in Madison. Alex Eaton with Aplos is looking at expansion and growth. We've got a hotel project in Pensacola we're working on right this minute. Chaz Lindsay from Polito is doing Rowan's across the street in the Belhaven Town Center. We're doing a variety of residential projects. So I think for me, one of the things that I've really realized is the things that I'm the most passionate about are here. And I can design all over. We work on Chopped, which is like a salad brand out of New York. We're doing some prototypes for them in the Midwest. But I think really and truly, like, what I care about is work in Jackson. And so I think as I move forward and as I kind of keep, expanding or doing different things, that's really my goal, is trying to kind of do work here that is meaningful and also lets me be here, because my family is here and my other businesses are here. So traveling and things like that aren't as easy as they used to be. So.
Right.
So if people in Mississippi want to experience a restaurant designed by Mary Sanders Ferriss Cavicchi,
Yes. The longest name in show business.
the longest name in show business, kind of give us a list.
Oh, goodness. I'm going to forget someone. Okay, so
Give us a partial
you've
list.
A partial list.
Polito in the Belhaven Town Center. You've got Salad Mookie's in the district, Kessler Prime, Tuck Tuck Boom, Aplos. I don't know, Malcolm, who else?
You said Salad Mookie's, right?
I said Salad Mookie's. We've also had many open and close, as is the nature of
Unfortunately,
the restaurant.
Fine and Dandy was an
Fine and
example.
Dandy was
It
one.
a beautiful place.
I mean, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, it's the restaurant industry. There's not, the percentage rate is not
good.
amazing anyway. So, so we have flipped some restaurants multiple times. We've got, retail spaces. If you are in New Orleans, obviously we talked about coffee in New Orleans. That's a great spot.
You did Beans and Bananas, didn't you?
Beans and Bananas. They've just moved
They moved,
into Banner Hall.
Upstairs where Fresh Ink was, by Lemuria.
Yep.
Yep. Well, so talk to us a little bit about the Hal and Mal's portion of this. Not that I'm promoting something I used to
Not
be a
that
part
you're
of.
not Mal.
I am Mal, but I'm not an owner of. But there's always new and cool stuff going on down there. And, I mentioned Jesse Robinson, who the 80-year-old urban blues icon from Jackson, plays every day during Friday lunch. So, Catfish Friday featuring Jesse Robinson is pretty unique. And then you've got the Monday Night Blues thing that's been going on forever. The Tuesday Jazz, and I'll let you take it from there, but you have all of these sort of reoccurring theme nights and projects going on. You still have the Red Room, which is another circus, another ring of a circus. You have the big giant back hall where concerts go on, and I think you had some big country concert there recently. But anyway, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. So, I mean, for us, my whole everything with us is just always trying to activate the building. The building feels best when stuff is going on all the time. This weekend we didn't necessarily have a ton of outside events, but we had, 2 Millsaps private events. We had Family Fun Night, which is done with Andrew Dillon every month, which is such a fun, I call it kind of like kids karaoke. We do it in the big room. The children run wild. The parents can eat and drink. We have a buffet for them. And then we just have a lot. We really just try to program lots of different things. We've, during the summer, we did a patio series where Damien cooked on the patio all summer, which is really one of the things that kind of made us kind of think a little bit about doing the walk-in. We try to have music every night of the week except Monday night. Monday night we actually have trivia in the dining room, and then we do Blues Monday in the Red Room. We've got Al's Sandwich Shop, which is something Alex Coates came up with, and it's once a month, and it's way too young for me, but the kids love it. It's DJs. I think Java did it recently. So they DJ and dance, and there's always a featured chef and a sandwich. So for us, it's just trying to create, creative ways to use the space. It's a great venue. One of the things I always said is, Jackson's kind of lost some of the live music. Like, we didn't have as much when I moved home as we did when I was growing up. So we really wanted to make sure that was something that people could come to. But
Sadly, that's another trend.
Yes, it is.
Away from live music. But it will come back.
I think I do think I see it happening. I mean, there's a lot of, you've got, Sunflower Oven, they do shows. You have some stuff happening over at the record store. I mean, people are doing small Urban Foxes.
They've got it going on.
Yeah. So, I mean, you see
Heights.
music, I think, happening more and more. But for us, it's really just kind of, we keep kind of an updated calendar so you can always kind of see what we have going on. It's really all types of things. I hate to say that, but it's really kind of, there is a little something for everyone, whether it's family or young people or, jazz. There's something probably one night of the week that everybody could enjoy.
And tell our listeners where they can find you and all of these enterprises that you have created and maintained.
On social media.
Okay.
I don't mean your home address, but I mean,
No, I know.
give us a taste of social media, where they can find
Ferriss
you.
and Company on Instagram for social media. Hal in, not and, in Mal's on Instagram for social media. Campbell's Bakeries, and now the Walk-In Jackson.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you coming in. This is good. You got a lot of balls in the air. And,
Mini balls.
Which is a beautiful thing.
It is, and thank you for all you and your husband have done and are doing for Jackson and to making our community more lively and certainly more tasty.
And more creative.
Yes.
And how cool for this full circle for the two of you.
Full circle.
Very much so.
Thanks so much. Deep South Dining is a production of Mississippi Public Broadcasting's Think Radio. We are funded by the generous contributions from folks like yourself, and we thank you. Our show was produced by Marissa Vaughn. For our very special guest, Mary Sanders, for my co-host, Carol Palmer, I am Malcolm White. We ask that you now stay tuned for Marshall Ramsey's program, Now You're Talking, and Southern Remedy at 11 a.m. Please join us, that's Carol and I, in our eclectic list of guests, every Monday and every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. right here on MPB Think Radio for more Deep South Dining.